Hey everybody, it's Sophie and Marco Dish on the Movies. And we are continuing with our Vincent Price week. If you recall, the first movie we did was called Shock. And although that was kind of a forgettable movie, you still might want to check out our review of it. And maybe consider watching it if you want.
Our review is more entertaining than the actual movie.
Now, I realize that a lot of you probably are thinking of the more recent House of Wax. I don't know when it came out because I haven't seen it. But this one was done in 1953, and of course, it would have to be that one because Vincent Price has passed away years ago. So I will tell you who's in it and a few just the main people, and then I'll talk a little about it, and then Marco will talk, and then we'll give our review. So the people in it are, of course, Vincent Price. He plays Henry, the wax artist. Then there's Phyllis Kirk. She plays Sue Allen. Then there's Charles Bronson, a very young Charles Bronson, who looks like a bodybuilder. His arms are very I don't know what muscly. He plays Igor. He doesn't talk too much because he's mute. Then there's Carolyn Jones, who plays Kathy Gray. Paul Picerni, who plays Scott Andrews. And that's all of the really main people I'm going to say that's who's in it. And it was made in 1953. So, if you want to know how old that is, that's 67 years old. Boy, can't believe it. All right, well, Henry, the wax sculptor, is part owner of a wax museum where he has lovingly created a cast of characters focusing mainly on famous women in history, like Cleopatra, Joan of Arc, Anne Boleyn, and especially Marie Antoinette. The only macabre, if you want to call it that, is a recreation, of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln at Ford's Theater. Henry's partner, who has $20,000 vested interest in the place, is unhappy. He stops by and wants to tell Henry that if he would create waxworks that reflected more gruesome historical characters, their museum profitability would go up. Henry refuses, but he has a potential person coming in who might buy out his partner. Well, when the buyer shows up, he's very interested. He loves those characters, Maria Antoinette, etc., and loves the museum. However, at the moment, he can't do the deal because he's leaving for a trip out of the country for 3 months. When he comes back, the buyer promises to get together with Henry. But Henry's partner is impatient. When the buyer leaves, the potential buyer, he says he's been hiding upstairs. And he says something about the place catching on fire and they're collecting insurance money. I was a little taken aback by this. Then he starts setting all the figures and everything else on fire. While he and Henry fight, he knocks out Henry. And he's just going to leave him there to die in the fire with all the figures. And so he's going to be a murderer too, which is really weird. Only for a while, because Henry wakes up and he fights again before he can leave. But the partner gets away because he knocks him out again. By this time, the place is engulfed in flames. Everything is just being destroyed. I mean, it's just wax. and eventually it blows up, which I don't get that. I don't understand how it blows up. Well, Henry disappears and nobody can find him. Nobody hears from him. They don't find his body, nothing. So, on the day the partner wins an insurance settlement because they assume, because nobody could find him, that he's dead, something strange happens. The partner is killed by a mysterious figure in black. Marco?
Okay. Oh, doing the review now? Okay. Well, this movie, just like the last one, is a huge mixed bag, but it is better than the last one for sure. I mean, Shock was like a student film. It was even worse than a student film because it just hardly anything happened. And in this movie, I remember watching it as a kid and just falling asleep. I rented it from the library, of course, and I just fell asleep like halfway through it, and I just never finished it because it's it's not what it advertises to be at all. I mean, the movie's called House of Wax, and the movie hardly even takes place in the House of Wax. Most of the movie takes place in the streets of London, in the police station, in this apartment, or I mean this house. So this movie, I would recommend if you watch it, go into it not expecting it to be House of Wax, because it's not House of Wax. There should be a movie where it just takes place in the Wax Museum, and it's really creepy because the figures, they look so real, and are they people, and just have everything take place inside there. Like, why do we need to have this big detective story outside of the museum? Why do we have to have all this extra stuff when you have a wax museum right there? Safi, are you going to contribute to this discussion about this mediocre 1950s movie?
Well, it was in color, and the other one had been in black and white, so I could tell right away they spent a lot more money making this movie, so it should be a lot better. And it was better. And I felt they could have done more with the story itself. It seemed like they did what they could do to make a story with all kinds of parts and really beautiful costumes. They had can dancing, they had great music, and another interesting thing they had, which it was funny because if you watch any cop show at all, you'll see the police racing in their cars to the scene. And this movie had an old carriage and where all the cops were in the carriage, and it was pulled by horses, and they were racing to the scene with a horse-drawn carriage. It's just really bizarre, but it was like a painting come to life. It was really interesting.
The whole movie's bizarre. The acting is bizarre. The story choices are bizarre. The only thing that I really like about the movie is Vincent Price. I'm sorry, but the movie is a fail. I mean, I don't think I'd ever watch this movie again. I mean, why would I ever want to watch this movie again? What's there to look forward to? What's there to actually look forward to in this movie? The opening scene, all up until the place gets set on fire, is really good.
And then it explodes, which helped me to explain why that happened. I don't get it.
I don't know. And then there's a sequence where Vincent Price doesn't even talk, and it's just this boring sequence that just, I wanted to turn it off immediately. I didn't even want to finish it to review it. And then there's a sequence in the middle where things get interesting again, and Vincent Price is talking again, and it's like, oh yay, finally we get to see the museum. It should have been the whole movie, yay. And then there's another sequence that's boring, and just nothing happens really. And then finally, there's like a little bit at the end that's okay. And so overall, this movie is kind of mediocre. It's the lowest of the. It's not worth it. It's called House of Wax. It should have been called the Mad Wax Museum guy runs around London killing people for some reason. Like it really has nothing on the title. I mean, the title to me, there could have been a really good movie based around that title that all takes place in a wax museum and it's a stormy night and something like that. But no, we can't have that, of course. Can't have a movie that's based around the title that's actually true to the title. Just like with the oblong box, remember that, Safi?
Yep.
How does this compare to the oblong box?
Well, I think it's better. But like I said, it seems like they wanted to get this out, the movie made and out right away. And so it seems like they did just a little bit more than the bare minimum. And this is just something I don't understand with movie makers then and now, is if you've got this big budget and you have a good story, you could make it really good, then you should do more with it instead of just hurry up so we can get it out and make some money. And they do that now and they did it then.
You could
Not with every movie, but with a lot of movies. And I think I just can't believe there's a lot of people out there, creative people, probably have great ideas for movies and they could do so much better. But they may never get the opportunity, or it'll be a long time before they can do something really good with a lot of money. And so you have all these creative people out there waiting out there who could do something. Instead, you have this coming out, and I mean, this is a long time ago, I know, but still, they do this now. You hurry up, you've got this big budget, and you put something together, it sounds pretty good, it's basic, and then you get it out, and it's done, and you rake in some money.
It really is like a 1950s blockbuster cash grab type of film. Like
Yeah,
like a Marvel film, basically.
yeah, and that's sad.
You could argue it's a waste of money because you could have saved a lot of money by just having it take place in the wax museum and have it rely around the actual museum instead of having this stupid, dumb, boring plot about a masked killer or a killer with a weird face running around London hunting for people. Like I really don't care. And then you have to have the boring boyfriend character, you know, the guy who goes like, oh, I'm here for you. You need to get back to normal. Oh yeah, here I am. I'm gonna go investigate, and I'm gonna come to the rescue because I'm the boyfriend character. Yeah. And then you have the girls, and the girls talk really weird. They don't talk like human beings. They talk like video game characters or something weird. They don't talk like real people. And so I found that kind of annoying. And then you have, of course, the gross age difference. The partner, he's with this girl, and he's like 48, and she's 23. And sorry, but it's just impossible to watch these movies from back then without seeing that kind of stuff, and it's so gross. I'm that's one of probably my biggest pet peeves about older movies, and I don't have many pet peeves when it comes to older movies because, as you know, older movies were actually good when they actually put effort into making movies. But that is something that is bothersome to see that gross, weird, ugh.
Well, there was there was a few lines in it that really irritated me, or I just thought there's this one girl and she gets killed. That's the oh, what's her name? Sue or Kathy. Kathy. Sue's the girl that he wants to make into Marie Antoinette, and
Spoiler alert.
yeah, Kathy is her friend, and she gets killed like almost at the very beginning. And she says something like before that happens, so she's going to go out on a date. And she says, "I'm finally getting up there with all the swells." So they're using swell in a different way instead of "oh, I had a swell time." She's calling people who have money and go out to dinner and do things. She's calling them swells.
Is it a good horror movie either? I don't even think it's a good horror movie. I mean, there's nothing scary to me.
Yeah, and well, another thing they had too, I just want to put in, they had an intermission, which I had never seen in any other movie before, but I know they did put them in like these big, like, I don't know, not Spartacus, but, oh, I don't know, Moses or something. They had another, Cleopatra, there was another intermission in there, which I thought was weird and interesting. But,
I like Charles Bronson.
yeah, he didn't say much, but he was buffed out. I
I
couldn't
like the
believe
drunk
it.
assistant. I like the
Yeah.
drunk assistant. So I like both assistants, and I like Vincent Price.
Yeah.
Other than that, this movie is garbage and doesn't deserve to be watched or recognized at all. And so, what would you rate it, Sophie?
Okay, well, I'll give the movie a Baconator with the basic ingredients, which is two hamburger patties with bacon in the middle of them, and then there's cheese melted down around them, and getting in the middle and all around it, and which isn't good because the basic ingredients, they're okay, because why would you get the sandwich in the first place? But condiments would have made it so much better, and I'm equating more things happening, more detail in the movie, more to the story would have been like the condiments. So that's why I'm giving a Baconator without condiments. Marco, what would you give it? It was very easy because I had just eaten one of those. Well, I only ate a bite because I couldn't stand it. I threw it in the trash. Because I'm very picky about what I eat, which is bad, but too bad.
Your reviews might as well be an afterthought.
Well, that was easy. Okay, Marco, what do you rate it? Marco's turning into a horror movie character. We're going to have to write a story with about 2 reviewers, and one of them went insane. And we'll have to develop that. Go ahead, Marco.
Okay. Okay. I rate this movie a funnel cake. But the thing is that I'm rating it a funnel cake over the course of years. Because every year that you go to a fair and you have the same fair food over and over again, it really falters. It's never the same. There's one year where it might be really good, and then the next year it might be bad, and then the next year it might be pretty good. And so I give it a funnel cake because that's really what this movie is. It's an attraction. It's a piece of history. It's an amusement. It's not really a horror movie, and it's designed in a way where there's like even meta dialogue where the guy with the balls, he's talking to the audience, and so I would give it a funnel cake, and just having a funnel cake over years and years of going to the carnival. And then in terms of spoilers, I really like the scene where Vincent Price's mask gets torn off or it falls apart. I really thought that was cool. I liked uh, I liked the scene at the beginning once again. And other than that, I don't really have anything positive to say about this movie, which I'm sure doesn't surprise a lot of people. But I mean, I give everything a fair chance. I mean, it wasn't me who made this movie. It's not my fault that it's mediocre. So, what about you, Sophie? What do you have to say? Don't you have anything to say about spoiler alert? Well, you already spoiled it the whole way through, so
I did?
yeah,
I don't think so.
I think so. Okay. What about the boyfriend? We hated the boyfriend. You hated the boyfriend, right?
Okay, what we're talking about this boyfriend and the girl that gets killed. Like I said, her friend goes to the museum after Vincent Price, after he reappears mysteriously. He looks fine, except he walks with a cane. He sits in a wheelchair, but his face and everything look fine. And she goes in the museum and she sees one of the characters, and it looks just like her friend who was killed. And so anyway, that's how she gets introduced with Vincent, and she gets into the movie. And then of course her boyfriend is who we're talking about, and he stands up for her, and but he questions her too, because he says, well, that can't be your friend. When she looks closer, I'll just bring this up, she had earrings and she had marks in her ears with the ear that where the earring was. And why would a figure that he made have that? It doesn't make any sense.
Do you have anything to comment about it though, or are you just gonna describe
No,
everything?
though I'm just trying to tell you
Just
how
trying to
this
spoil
boyfriend of
everything.
whom?
Come on,
What boyfriend?
the boyfriend.
Yeah, I know who he
This
is.
is
I
the
mean,
spoiler section. If people have already seen the movie, they already know who the boyfriend is.
well, he's really weak.
Yeah, he is weak.
And he's so
And
funny because he
since-
challenges Charles Bronson
Yeah.
at the end. And Charles Bronson, like I said, he's been working out, and his arms are extremely muscular. And I couldn't believe it. It wasn't fake either.
And since this is the 1950s, Charles Bronson drags him over and puts him in the guillotine, and he's gonna cut his head off. And of course, since this is the 50s, where we can't have anything like that, he doesn't get his head chopped off, which really pissed me off. Really pissed me off, because I thought, that would have actually made this movie a little memorable. The fact that they kill off the dumb boyfriend character, the boring boyfriend character, and have his head get cut off. You don't even have to have it happen off screen and have Charles Bronson go like,
But he couldn't do that anyway. He couldn't
What?
talk.
You don't
Did he?
think he could giggle and go like,
Well, I just think the sound of the chopping noise would have been.
Oh, they couldn't do that. Couldn't do any of that. 50s.
Well, so, but the thing I was just commenting on, he takes on Charles Bronson. This guy's a skinny little twerp.
Yeah.
And Charles Bronson has like been working out for who knows how long, and he's got all these muscly arms, and there's no way he could win against him in any way, shape, or form.
He could have been a good Frankenstein monster. Actually, he reminded me a lot of Frankenstein. Do you agree?
Well, he did have this look. I didn't recognize him at first. I thought
Yeah.
he looked familiar,
I
but
didn't
his hair was
recognize him
very
at all.
black, and he also had these muscular arms, and he wore these short sleeves, or he pushed up his shirt sleeves, so they were visible during the whole movie. And he had this dark look in his face, and he was quiet because, of course, he was mute. So, yeah, he could be an evil. Well, he was evil. He was helping out the evil guy, killing all these people. But he could have been evil on his own.
Lastly, there was a really funny scene, and it was the can dancing, and the boyfriend is sitting with the main girl, and they're talking, and he's really paying more attention to the can dancers than he is to her. And I'm wondering if the script was telling him to do that, or he was just more enamored himself personally, and he chose to do that because it looked like he was like taking full advantage and just watching them dance instead of doing the dialogue scene, and that's just one example of kind of the goofiness of this movie. This movie's really goofy too. I mean, it might as well have been a comedy. So
Yeah, you probably could make it into a comedy. Do a few tweaks there and there.
economy.
Comedy.
Okay.
That you probably could make it into a comedy if you made a few tweaks. Probably not even that many.
Yeah.
So okay, well.
And what about the partner? Oh yeah, he gets killed like 20 minutes into the movie. He's getting his money, and then Vincent Price he literally pops up behind the couch, and he's got a weird look at his face, and you can't really tell like what expression he's making because it's so deformed. He comes over with the old-fashioned strangling hands, where he's got his hands up and he's gonna strangle. And that was so stupid. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Well, I just want to say too that when he was going out and committing these murders, he just have his deformed. There was more to the damage that was done to him than what met the eye. He had a deformed face. Most of his hair was missing. But then when he would in public, when he would meet people and he set up a new museum, he had the special mask. But I think what they did for the movie, he didn't wear that mask. He just had his regular face. And then in the end, for purposes of making, scariness or whatever, he had a mask on his face. And who was it? The girl was fighting with him, and she hit it or something, and it broke. And then he took it off, and you could see all his deformity. And I think it scared her, and she passed out or something. So I just wanted to make that clear. I don't think he wore that mask during the whole movie. So, okay, I think we're done now. Our next movie, and I can't remember the name of it, but something about I think it's the Tomb of Ligeia or something. And we're just picking these. Well, that's a known. The House of Wax is a known one, but we thought we'd pick kind of off ones that people didn't know about. We thought, well, we might find something that's good.
Let's just be clear. She picked the movies, not me.
Well,
this was the only one I picked, actually. She gave me a choice of two movies. Either this
or The Fly.
Or The Fly. And
which everybody knows that
and
one.
I chose to watch this because I wanted to see if it was still as boring as I remembered.
Well, I guess now I might watch the remake just to see what they do with it.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think it'll be better, but I would like to see it.
You heard it first. You heard it here, everybody. She is committing to watching the Paris Hilton House of Wax movie.
She's in it?
Yeah, she's the main character.
Oh, God.
You committed to it. You just committed to it. I saw that movie when I was younger.
You did?
I thought it was okay. I didn't thought it was as bad as everyone said it was. Everyone says it's like the worst remake of all time.
I can't believe she's even in a movie like that.
She's the one on the poster. Remember that cool poster I showed
you? Yeah. Unbelievable.
I think I'm going to have you review that one all by yourself.
No problem.
Okay. Please like this video.
Like and subscribe. We would really appreciate it, everybody. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.